As you can see, I got nothing more but a plethora of various different artists behind me on my record wall. I mean, I got albums upon albums coming out of my ass right here. But sometimes when you get into a mood of wanting to listen to a specific artist, no matter what the genre is, you just go through your record stash and you just specifically choose on who you want to listen to. Either if you want to go to Genesis or NXS, Tears for Fears, Van Halen, Peter Gabriel, Howard Jones, Aha, Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, Depeche Mode, you name it. But for someone like me, I'm in the mood to listen to these guys. As for who they are, how about The Cure? Before I go into this review, let me drop a little quick music lesson for everybody about the definition of what happy sad is all about from the top of my head. Happy sad to me is a definition to where you have music that's in a uplifting, positive mood, but the lyrics are very melancholy. Now there's a lot of bands in the new romance, the new wave genre, or in the 80s gothic alternative type of realm where you can say is the definition of what happy sad is all about. You can say bands like Susie and the Banshees, The Damned, groups like that, or you can say to me one of the biggest definition is a catalog like Robert Smith, the lead singer of The Cure. I mean, some of the albums right here I'm going to showcase that I have in my possession. And from each album that I listen to of The Cure, it's just the progression alone of starting off with basic stuff, leading into different sounds, different formats of writing, different styles of stories being portrayed. Robert Smith, to me, is a pure genius when it comes to writing, producing, and just arranging all sorts of different sounds and putting just a really fantastic production of music together. Simon Gallup, a great bass player. Been with The Cure since day one. And I absolutely love The Cure. I love their music. They're different, they're unique, they're genius, and to me deserve every ounce of credibility that what they got being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Recognition truly deserved. But the thing is, folks, if there's one director in the world of movies that is like the most gothic director that isn't gothic, that's Tim Burton. Now, Edward Scissorhands, look at this character alone. Someone who wants to fit in with society but can't because he's got differences. If you look at it, he was inspired by Robert Smith of The Cure in terms of the melancholy mood, the hair, the personality, the kindness behind his eyes, the pathos you see in his personality. These are things that you can describe of what Edward Scissorhands is all about with his personality. And I'm going to repeat myself, the pathos, the melancholy, the kindness, the sadness. But he is surrounded by an uplifting and positive type of atmosphere with all these neighbors who are in like this 50s, 60s type of, formation and clothing, and just the mood in general is like 50s and 60s in a way. And there he is up in this great castle where he was the created son by the inventor, who was played by Vincent Price, and God bless his soul. One of the greatest horror actually no, let me rephrase that. To me, the greatest horror icon to have ever hit in the world of horror movies ever. To me, one of the true godfathers of what horror is all about, but I digress. And also, if you notice, I finally used the right border for this review. So, continuing on about Edward Scissorhands, the movie itself, to me, is something that describes of what it's like in music, of what happy sad is all about, to where you have a happy surroundings where you got all these people who are being nice to him. You got this young lady who works, I believe, as a real estate agent. She goes up to this castle. She meets this abandoned boy after the owner passed away. She tries to take him into civilization to make him more acquainted with his surroundings of what the real neighborhood is like, introducing him to her family, her son, her husband, her daughter that he absolutely falls in love with. But then again, if you look at it, he sees this beautiful woman and he falls in love with her. Like, just love at first sight, like a Romeo and Juliet type of situation. But then again, for her, it was a bit of a progression for him to really see who he truly is as a human being, besides having a disadvantage where he has scissors for hands. And just Edward alone, he's a study. He's an interesting character study from the way you're looking at him. I mean, besides the mood, I mean, just looking at the whole description of the fact that he has scissors for hands, both short and long scissors. Now, people look at him like he's either a freak or just along with his talent, that he's able to take the scissors and he's able to trim like paper dolls, able to give beautiful haircuts, turn their dogs into like beautiful animals and all that stuff with just giving them a trim, or turning bush hedges into art, or taking ice blocks and turning that into beautiful sculptures. He's got talent, and it was just a natural thing because from the way it looks, it's one of his only escape routes from reality and society of all the people looking down on him. Sure, there was a lot of MILFs. I mean MILFs who were into this guy because not only was he young and good looking to all of them, but sure, they thought he was strange, but at the same way, they thought of him as an attractive looking guy. And let's just say, apparently the MILFs is definitely... Were cougars too, so that alone was very fascinating, and there was a lot of levity and comedy value in this film that was interesting. Even though Edward did not have necessarily a lot of dialogue, but when he did say something, it was meaning and it had merit to what his moods were. Because mostly, I mean, all these characters who were talking to him, he just had to react with his facial expressions of what you see in his grins or his eyes alone or how he's reacting. But mostly, he was just fucking scared. He was being surrounded by a bunch of people he didn't know at all and wanted to... He tried to fit in, tried to give him decent clothes, trying to make a part of society with, trying out different foods, different drinks, and all other stuff. But the only, you can say, joy he saw besides, the art that he did was this female that he had a love for. And the whole story was narrated by her when she was much older. But the thing is that just like in the poster, sure, he's got a lot of sadness, but at the end, there's a lot of positivity. And later on, when she was looking at him, she really saw the good in his eyes and the good that he has, besides the disadvantages. And now, I can personally relate to someone like Edward Scissorhands, is the fact that, sure, you may have a disadvantage of whatever it is you cannot control at all, or whatever it is that's, I wouldn't say handicap, but more of a something that you can't control that's out of your limits. But at the end of the day, besides of what it is that you have for disadvantages, whether it's, the way you speak or eye contact or just something, when someone sees the good in you, that you really are a good human being deep down, despite of, your flaws, they respect you and they'll grow to love you. And once you get like a hug like when she gave to him later on in the movie, it just shows that he felt the warmth of something that he didn't have for so long after his creator and you can say his papa passed away later on. But this movie was just absolutely beautiful of a story. It represents everything that musically that I admire when it comes to the happy sad description or that gothic realm. It really respects the works of Tim Burton, that I admire him as a director of what he's able to bring, just different standards within the gothic realm of making just great movies with that particular theme, rolling into such unique stories. And overall, this is a great movie to watch. I think personally around the holiday time, because even though it's not necessarily, you can say, a holiday film, but in my personal standards, I think it is a holiday movie towards me. Because it's just one of those movies to where, sure, Christmas time is around having a positive mood. And for this instinct, it really makes me reflect on some of my flaws and how it makes me feel to be a better person. That there are people out there who do care and respect my flaws. So, Edward Scissorhands was a movie that I personally gave a 4.5 out of 5 to a long time ago. And I still absolutely admire it to this very day. Still sticking to my guns with that rating. So, with that being said, folks, that's going to have to do it for this little talk. Stay tuned as we get to our next discussion.